I guess with that, we can just, if you're ready, we'll just jump right into it.
Yeah, sure. So my name's Chris McCarthy. I'm the superintendent of Evergreen Country Club. We are in Haymarket, Virginia, Northern Virginia. We are a private club. We hover around 300 to 325 members. We're not crazy busy, but we do do our fair share amount of rounds. We are ryegrass, as close to 100% ryegrass fairways as you can get. We are push-up bent POA greens, and I have greens that are 80-20 bent POA, and then I have greens that are 80-20 POA bent. So we have our mix across the board. And then our tees, we redid half of them 2 seasons ago, and they are iron cutter Bermuda. And then our other tees are a hodgepodge of rye, Bermuda, bent, anything you can throw in there.
Right.
We talked last season about some of the ways that we can kind of, the problems that I was having and the ways that we can kind of maximize what we do have out there and the conditions that we're dealing with. And I kind of fell in love with the flexibility of the Predict End program right away, and we've kind of we've been on it all facets, greens, tees, fairways have been on it ever since.
What would be one of the greatest differences you see when you use Predict End versus the traditional ways that you've managed golf courses?
Yeah, so for us, the big thing right away was the comprehensive soil test. And it was really kind of eye-opening to exactly what we were dealing with and what we had out there and what was available and unavailable to us. And that kind of, I was already on the fence with my old program about and we've talked about this in the past, of just being like a blanket coverage of everything. And you go back to Turf Agronomy 101 and you look at, plant needs N, plant needs P, plant needs K, and we just kind of put our products and our rate down that suffice those needs and check those boxes for us. And when we went into the soil test, it was a completely different scenario of what we actually had and what we were actually dealing with, and realized that a lot of those boxes that we were checking, we already had plenty of it. And I mean, more than plenty of it. And
right.
The thing that we needed to focus on was our organic matter, and basically making those unavailable products in the soil available to us so that we could use them. And we were talking that we'd run into scenarios that we would have crazy clippings and stuff like that. And that's just us, spraying our N, we get some rain, we get release of N that's already there. And all of a sudden we have growth like that we couldn't keep up with if we wanted to. So, I mean, just the ability to kind of know exactly what's going on all the time and know exactly what we're releasing and how much exactly N we're putting down and how much, defense coverage we have and how much that metabolic cycle is working for us. Just knowing that exactness has been really night and day for us.
That's pretty cool. So, since you have basically 3 different models, one for greens, one for tees, and one for fairways. Let's talk about the greens model first in regards to, let's start with ball speeds. What have you seen with ball speeds?
So, I mean, for us, it's the consistency that matters. We would have times, I have a small crew, and we would have times where, those shoulder seasons where everybody's playing out here and we're kind of, pretty much everybody in the area is in pretty immaculate shape. Our greens are flying, everything's good. And then when we get growing and like I said, we're throwing things on top of things that are already releasing in the soil for us. We're almost growing to the point where we kind of have this fluctuation of speed. And now that fluctuation is just much more consistent across the board. Obviously we're not running like our crazy 14s, 15s like we are when we're bone dry and in great shape. But I mean, we keep that consistent, that 11 to 12 pretty much all the time now.
Right. Right. What about turf health? What have you seen different with the health of your greens?
Yeah, I mean, for us, that's been across the board. One of the big things that we talked about when we were starting the program was kind of the width of our leaf blades. And that's been at least first and foremost right away starting the program last fall and then pushing into getting real heavy into it this spring. That was like immediately visually one of the first things that I noticed is just kind of like the turf was getting like going on a diet, like it was getting leaner and it was kind of shredding off the excess stuff that we had built up in it over the years. And just in terms of we're regularly a place that doesn't really have to go and chase wilt all the time with our push-up scenario. So like the general health of the turf remains pretty healthy, but just the overall, it feels like a natural health now, not a health that we're kind of like just forcing stuff down its throat to hey, you need this, you need this. Well, and really we don't need this. We just kind of need to unlock this or get rid of this or minimize this. And that's been a night and day for us.
Awesome. Awesome. I remember when your member guest, when you had it the night before you got some rain, how did that affect your ball speed?
Yeah, I mean, literally zero. I mean, going up to that, we were decently dry, but we were getting some rain. And then we missed rain from that day was May 29th, and we didn't get rain again until July 5th here. And I mean, that entire time, the greens held up, remained healthy, very little watering to go with it. It just, like I said, I can't really speak enough to just how kind of naturally healthy it felt. And it's like, I don't really know how to describe it in terms of like what I'm seeing and what I'm feeling, but it just kind of like knowing in the back of my mind the program we were doing and the program we're now doing, it just made it seem like we were doing things a better way, a healthier way.
Right. Right. Well, let's talk about fairways. I know when we first started discussing, a fairway program, because you have ryegrass fairways that they grow aggressively.
Fair.
And it was, have you seen a difference in regards to mowing or growth regulators?
Yeah. So, I mean, our growth regulation from the entirety of last year to the entirety of this year, just in 1 year use, we're down about 25% of the rate that we use across the board. And then last year, even with the bumped up rate, we'd be a blower ahead to blow off divots and stuff like that, a mow, and then a blower behind to take care of all the extra clippings and stuff and whatnot. We have a small crew, like I said, so we're not able, fortunately, to collect clippings and do that. We have to stay ahead of play in the morning. I only have 2 machines. And so that extra blower is just like, there's guys teeing off and we're finishing up blowing a fairway. And like, I know that's fine. People understand that, especially the early morning golfers for the most part understand that, but that's just not something as a private country club we wanted to continuously make a habit of. So I think this year, since being on the program, we might have had to blow clippings once. And that was like very, very early in the spring when, our flush of growth was crazy and we might have got a rain that we had to like delay mowing a day or something like that. But since then, we've been zero need for a blower to blow any clippings. And our regulation is down to, a number that doesn't scare you when you put it in the tank in the morning.
Right. What about tees? Because you've got uniqueness between, half are cool season, half are warm season. But yes, you have 2 different models too.
Yes,
for each.
4 models with greens, fairways, our warm season and our cool season. The fun part is obviously looking at the difference between what our brand new warm season tees need and what our really old cool season tees need. I mean, it's the model is just crazy between the both of them. But like we have a hodgepodge of grass in our old tee scenario, and just being able to kind of keep everything in check is kind of like what our goal. What, you know, it's not like we can really develop a program that caters to one set of grass or another set of grass. We kind of throw everything all in one board. And obviously the Bermuda, we have as close to 100% strand as you can get. And I mean, both of the playing conditions have been, you know, everything that we can keep up with and ask for.
That's great. That's great. When you're using PredictN, let's kind of go back to when you first started. How easy is it to use?
Yeah, I mean, it's as simple as it can get. It's like me as the superintendent is kind of going back to the assistant days and just like, okay, what are we spraying today? And like, it just tells you what you're taking care of today. But like the flexibility of everything to be able to tweak it with your clipping yield and your stress tolerance and stuff like that. It's just the ability to tweak it to what you as a manager knows what you need or what's coming up that you need to react to. That's just, I mean, it's literally night and day. I mean, we'd have verification coming up right now. So on Monday. So our sprays are, you know, I can go ahead and click low yield, knowing that I'm going to throw a little bit extra product in to help me close those holes up that much quicker. So just like the flexibility of all of it, and the fundament, basically going back to the fundamentals of how to, you know, you need chlorophyll, you need sunlight, you need water, you know, it's taking that rudimentary metabolic system and putting it to use.
That's great. That's great. What do you think is the greatest takeaway from using PredictN?
I think for us, at least here, it's certainly the peace of mind it brings. And that's not like saying, oh God, thank God we followed PredictN and sprayed our normal Florentine spray. Like we're all good. We don't have to worry about anything. You know, like we're not immune to hot spots or icky areas out there or anything like that. But just knowing that we're doing our best to keep our nitrogen levels in check and to fight problems that we know we're dealing with. And we talked when we were starting the program that our organic matter is probably one of our biggest issues out here, with push up and then 100% clay, everything else. The ability for us to know that we aren't overdoing it, I think is the best peace of mind to think about throughout this. You know, like everybody knows disease pressure's coming. Everybody knows you're going to get some sort of disease out there somewhere. But the ability to know that, like, hey, Mother Nature might win a little bit here, but she's not going to win because of us.
Right. Right. That's a very good point. That's a good point. What advice would you give somebody who's thinking about starting using PredictN?
I mean, like we did in the fall, you can go ahead and start small, and you know, I'm one of the maybe rare people that just kind of dove all in. You know, I pretty much completely abandoned my own program and started this program, but I also believed in the science behind what was happening with the program. And really at the end of the day, like starting with the soil sample, if you're even on the fence, if you're even thinking, you know, not even about PredictN, just thinking like, hey, how can I make this a better scenario for me? That the comprehensive soil sample answers so many questions as to what you can't see and what you have going on in the soil to be able to know exactly what you need versus just checking off some boxes that you learned a long time ago from somebody else.
Right. In regards to your overall cost on maintaining the tees, greens, and fairways, have you seen a reduction in cost holistically?
For sure. So our regular spray program, we're at I think we're going to get pretty close to about half to maybe 60% of what that old program was. And really, it's like we've talked about this in the past as well too. That's just like, oh, people hear the name Florentine and they get, oh my God, what are we doing? Florentine's so expensive, et cetera, and so forth. But really, you're spraying so much less of everything. Your rates are way dialed down. It's really, you're just giving it what it needs, instead of giving it what you think to be the correct rate. And that's to not only just saving product right there, just from the cutting of rates and making sure you're only giving it exactly what it needs versus the whole dose of the rate that you're used to spraying. Like right there, you're cutting back chemicals, but then on top of that, you kind of see through the ebbs and flows of the program that like there are times where you're basically almost not spraying anything. You're just you're spraying some products that are working to release what you already have there because you don't need anything extra. And there are sprays with 4, 5, 6 products in it. There are sprays with 1, 2, 3 products in it. So it's just the use of making everything just very cut and dry right in front of you. It is like I said, the peace of mind and everything just knows that the money is going in the right spot.
Right. So for you would you say that using PredictN makes Florentine affordable?
Sure. Yeah. 100%. I mean, we were, I'm going to go into the other brands or anything, but our other brands were, I mean, when we did our program right away off the bat, before the PredictN started implementing and all that stuff, even the cost savings that we were looking at right away was at about 50%. And it's like, I knew we were going to be saving some money, but I didn't know to the extent of what we were doing. It was impressive how much we were able to save just by accommodating what we already had in the ground.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, and this hasn't been an easy year, has it?
No, I'm pretty sure we're the hottest year in Virginia on record this year. And so, I mean, we've had, last year was very dry here, very dry. We went almost the better part of 3 months without any rain here and through July and August of that year. So it was like the difficulty is kind of, it kind of depends on what you want to deal with in the difficult aspect. But I mean, this year we've had a little bit more rain, so the disease pressure has been a little bit different, and our ability to stay firm and fast has been a little bit different. But like in terms of turf health, for if you were to look back in history and be like, oh hey, 2024 was the worst year in Virginia history, I'd say, oh, we did pretty good that year. We handled it just fine.
Right. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time to, kind of discuss your perception and what you've seen with PredictN. So, thank you for this.
Yeah, of course. We, I've fallen in love with the program since we've started it. It seems like everything is kind of, I don't want to say easier. Nothing's ever easy, but it's less stress on the thinking about it aspect. When you're going in and you're just thinking, oh man, was that enough? Was that the right rate? Is this the right product? Am I doing this right? Am I doing this right? It's all answered for you. It's the last thing it literally is the last thing you have to worry about.